Hi, this is Karen Cupico, and today we're going to talk about some interesting ways people have been killed for their intuitive abilities before in a past life. A lot of people come to me to talk about and to learn or understand or overcome any blocks to their intuitive abilities, whether they're seeing things, hearing things, getting knowings, feelings, whatever it is that they want to enhance as far as their own personal intuitive abilities. Sometimes we delve into a past life. I've been asked to give some examples on what are some of the ways that people have been killed in past lives because they were using their intuitive abilities for their way of living, or maybe they were just really good at it or something like that. Most of the time, when you have a block to your intuitive abilities in this current lifetime, there always seems to be a pattern or a link to a root cause in a past life. So depends on how you died and sometimes what your talent used to be. So, for example, lots of people have remembered lifetimes or have inklings that they were connected to maybe the Salem witch trials or other witch trials that happen to happen not just here in the United States in Salem, but in European countries and places like that. A lot of people remember being burned or drowned because of it. But keep in mind that some of these folks, who most of the time were women, who were drowned or burned at the stake, sometimes they weren't necessarily witches. Sometimes they happened to be accused of being a witch, and there kind of was no kind of easy way to get out of that. Um, if you lived, you were a witch. If you died, you were still a witch. So you're going to die either way. If you were accused, you were pretty much dead. But it's come to my awareness, and I have been told by other people as well, that sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the reason that people were accused of being witches is because husbands wanted to get out of a marriage, and that was one way to end the marriage because of till death do you part. And if the husband accused the wife of being a witch, she was pretty much dead. So, that aside, here are some other ways that I have come across by way of helping others to remember a past life or by giving a reading to people. So, I guess hold your horses, and if you don't like to listen to gruesome, awful things, maybe find another fun video to watch. So, like I said, everybody's heard of being burned at the stake. Lots of ways of being burned. I regressed somebody one time who was practicing helping others by utilizing their intuitive abilities. They actually were very connected to collecting herbs and herbology, collecting these things to make them into teas and tinctures and things to put on your skin to help people heal in some kind of physical way, kind of like the original doctors, if you will. And they would use their intuitive abilities to do that type of thing as well. This particular person, they were trapped inside their house, and then townspeople always because of fear, every single time, 100% of the time, aside from the witch trial stuff, it's always out of fear. Well, even the witch trial stuff, actually, that's still fear. It's still fear. It's always fear. So it's always fear that causes these people's deaths. And out of fear or fear of being found out because they, like someone in higher power, higher status, in a sense, they find out that you happen to know if you have major intuitive abilities in a past life. I can't say that's occurring right this second, but in a past life, and whether they go to you because they wanted to find more information out or something like that, and then they realize that you know that they've been like dilly-dallying around on their spouse or something along those lines, then they have you taken out, if you will. So that also happens quite a bit, seems like, on some level. A few times I've had where people have brought children to get healing, and It was just their time to go. And so because the parents were so distraught and upset, then they collected a whole bunch of people saying that the person who was trying to actually do some good, and sometimes it's just person's time to go. They, out of anger and so much grief, they collect people to go after the folks who were doing healing work to begin with. Not every person can be healed. It just sometimes it is their time to go. But be that as it may, these people get together and try to kill these people. So those are some of the reasons, some of the main reasons that seem to be kind of like a pattern for why people get killed in the first place for having intuitive abilities. Bottom line is it's out of fear, but few outliers beyond that seems to occur. So a couple of the other ways that I've seen that are kind of like gruesome, I'm going to keep saying that some of these things are kind of gruesome. The worst one that I've seen more than once, sorry to say, is, and I guess back in the day, people felt that if your entire body was dismembered, then your spirit part of you could not come back together again. They're wrong, because you're still here. People are still here remembering these things. But the way that they would do it is they would tie someone's hands and feet and have horses in 4 directions pull their entire body apart, which is kind of gross, actually, to remember. Keep in mind, absolutely 90+% of the time, you are jumping out of your body when an impending doom or torture is going to happen, any kind of pain, any kind of suffering in a serious manner. Your spirit part of you knows better, and it is out of your physical body, and you do not have to experience or even re-experience that pain when you remember a past life. Just letting you know. In some of the ways that people have been killed because of their intuitive psychic abilities is by drowning. A few weird ways that have come to my awareness because of helping people remember a past life is one where this lady was crammed inside of a box and put out to sea and just floated around inside this box and then went under the water and drowned. So that was kind of a weird way. So another way that has to do with water and ending of a life because of intuitive abilities, it always is because of fear, right? We talked about that. But she had a group of people that came after this particular lady, and they ran her over the side of a cliff into the water where she hit the rocks and died on impact. So that kind of sucked. I have another lifetime that was remembered where a woman was meditating and was in such a deep trance state that was killed by a group of people. They put her into a flow of lava that was near to where she was at on this island she was on. And so that was pretty gruesome because she woke up in the lava. I think more was aware that she was out of her body and witnessing herself dying in that kind of way. The last thing is she knew she was sitting down to meditate. So that was especially gruesome because there was no preparation, right? Maybe it was for the better, I guess. So there was a lot of other ones that are kind of weird too that people have remembered. Weird in a sense that apparently they used to torture people this way. Aside from the whole sticking you in a dungeon, clamping your wrist shut and hanging you, literally hanging you, but people have been at the guillotine, had their heads cut off. They have had swords run through their throat, which I think is especially interesting. All the throat things, head cut off, being hung, and a sword in the throat, that all gets you right in the throat chakra, which has to do with communication. Because I think on some level, on some subconscious level, if you are communicating higher knowledge, intuitive information, verbally saying these things to others, it actually feels very, very on purpose that then you would have that throat area affected when you go to die in that lifetime. It's very interesting that the throat seems to be affected quite a bit in that kind of way. The grossest one, aside from the horse being pulled in 4 directions one, I guess. Aside from that one, this is another gross one. So heads up. And I have had people remember this more than once, different people. It's almost like groups of people were being collected for intuitive abilities, it seems, a couple times. And maybe it was along the times of the witch trials, which I feel like went on for more than just a few years. It feels like hundreds of years over time, like a witch hunt would happen in this town or that village or whatever type of thing. But what would happen is that they had these very thick, I don't even know what you call them. They're like stakes. And they're probably, the way that they show it is like 3 inches wide wooden stakes with like a pencil point at the top. And then someone would get stuck on top of it through the middle of them, just kind of like a stick up the inside of a puppet, if you will. Gross, I'm sorry for the visual, but it was definitely a way of torture, because you would not die straight away after having that happen normally. And the lifetimes that I've helped people remember where this came up, yeah, gross, okay? And they didn't die right away, so it made it even worse, because you're like hanging there, basically. So it was super weird and awkward, and I'm sure incredibly uncomfortable and painful. So what do you do with all this information? What happens when you remember an exceptionally disgusting, torturous way that you've passed? Whether you were being tortured and killed because of your intuitive abilities or for any other reason. A lot of times it has to do with war stuff, surprisingly, and just terrible stuff. But what do you do with all that? Well, so if you're in the midst of remembering a past life and you're working with someone who is very aware of what to do when something like this comes up, I'm super glad that you're with someone who can help you through it. But if you're on your own, remembering by maybe listening to a past life regression, that's self-hypnosis, meditation type of experience, like I have at the end of this video. What do you do if something like this comes up? So the first thing is send love to yourself at that moment, okay? And then forgive whoever and whatever was involved. So, for example, if someone took a sword to your throat, you forgive the person, the sword, the metal of the sword, whatever was involved, yourself for getting stuck in that situation, your throat for not being strong enough, for your legs for not running away, whatever the case may be, whatever comes up, every aspect of it, forgive it. Now, forgiveness is not saying what they did was okay. Forgiveness is not letting your energy, even on a subconscious level, go back to wherever that trauma occurred. Again, and just keep in mind too, even if it's in this lifetime or a past lifetime, forgiveness is so healing. I like to remind people about that. So once you do that, I always ask the angels to pour healing, unconditional love energy in anything that's been removed from your energy. All that trauma, that anger, the shame of it, whatever comes up that might have been stored in your throat area. For that specific example, it would have been stored there, right? You want to get rid of that and replace it with pure, positive, unconditional love energy. And the angels are here for you 100% of the time. You just have to ask. So make sure you click that like button and subscribe. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Lots of love and light to you.